Today our topic is Supreme Court, the High Courts and the subordinate courts. So the Supreme Court of India was originally established by the Act of 1935. Then it was called the Federal Court of India. And after that, after the independence, the Supreme Court was inaugurated on the date January 28, 1950. Then it was the Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court works on the integrated system of judiciary. It means that the High Courts works as the direction given by the Supreme Court. Judgment of the Supreme Court that are given are binding and they are considered to be as the court of record. This means if in any case the judgment of the Supreme Court is given and a similar case comes in a High Court, then the decision given by the Supreme Court will be considered as a way of giving the decision. Any such decision cannot be given by the High Court which overrules that decision. So it is a court of record. Supreme Court can summon the government. Supreme Court can summon the state governments. So the powers of Supreme Court are enormous. Supreme Court is a guardian of the Indian Constitution. It is the interpreter of Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution is being interpreted by High Court also. But when interpretation is being made by the High Court and interpretation is being made by the Supreme Court, the interpretation made by the Supreme Court is considered final. And no question can be raised on that. The decision given by the Supreme Courts are final, and in any court of law, no question can be raised on them. Supreme Court is the guarantor of the fundamental rights of the citizens of India. High Courts are also the guarantor of fundamental rights. If the fundamental rights of some citizen of India is being violated, he may directly approach to High Court or to the Supreme Court, and it comes under the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court and High Courts too. In that case, Supreme Court may order the writs that will give justice for the person who is seeking the fundamental rights. And there are 5 major writs: habeas corpus, mandamus, writ of prohibition, writ of certiorari, and quo warranto. Supreme Court may ask anybody to present before himself. Supreme Court may stop any court for working outside its jurisdiction. Supreme Court may call any case in which the decision is being reversed. So, Supreme Court is rather a guarantor of the fundamental rights of India. The judges of the Supreme Court varied from time to time. So we'll discuss it in the later part of the video, that what is the number of the judges, that had been varied. But let's start with the tenure of the judges of the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court, the tenure of the judges is being well indicated in the Constitution document, that unless and until the judge of the Supreme Court attains the age of 65, he will not retire. Nobody can remove from its office. The judge of the Supreme Court can only be removed on the grounds that are given in the Constitution, and that grounds are very clear. That grounds are proved misbehavior and incapacity. Only on the basis of proved misbehavior and incapacity, judges of the Supreme Court can be removed, and the process of the removal of the judges is very complicated and very long. That is called impeachment. But the word impeachment is not used for the removal of the judge of the Supreme Court, but it is a process which is impeachment. So I have discussed that the judges of the tenure of the judges of the Supreme Court is fixed as far as their upper age limit is concerned. So up to the age of 65, none of them in India can remove them. It clearly means that the judge of the Supreme Court do not holds its position on the pleasure of the President. I want to make it clear that when we discussed the Council of Ministers, it was said that the minister is individually responsible to the President and collectively responsible to the Parliament. And the governor holds his position on the pleasure of the President. But the judge of the Supreme Court, neither Chief Justice nor other judges, holds their position. They do not hold their position on the pleasure of the President. So now we just come on to some data. What I said that we'll discuss in the later part. Regarding Supreme Court, the articles are given from 124 to 147 in the part 5 of the Constitution, and the number of judges in the apex court varied from time to time. In 1950 there were 8, in 56 there were 10, in 66 there were 13, in 77 they were 17, in 86 they were 25, and by the constitutional amendment of 2008 now there are 31 judges, 30 judges and 1 Chief Justice of India. I said in the last line that by the constitutional amendment, it means clearly that Parliament has power to increase the number of judges in the Supreme Court. That's why I said that we'll discuss in the later part. So, this is the way the number of judges have been increased in the Supreme Court, and there is no fixed number of judges that are being indicated in the Parliament. So in the Constitution. So Parliament has power to increase the number of judges of the Supreme Court. The salaries of the Justice, Chief Justice and other judges of the Supreme Court are charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. So it means the salaries and allowances of the judges of the Supreme Court of India can be discussed in the Parliament, but they cannot be voted on the Parliament. So Parliament do not have power to reduce the salaries and allowances of the judges. So there is a security of their tenure so that they can work properly. The Supreme Court, the decision of the Supreme Court cannot be criticized anywhere. If someone, even in the Parliament, if the decisions of the Supreme Court are criticized, the Supreme Court may summon anybody in India for doing its contempt. So the decision of the Supreme Court can neither be analyzed nor criticized. If they are criticized or analyzed, the Supreme Court has all power to use the contempt of the court. The salaries of the judges of the Supreme Court can be reduced, but in only one special case, and that special case is financial emergency. And up till in India, financial emergency has not been imposed. So the point is this, up till now I have discussed that the judge of the Supreme Court is rather independent. It is appointed by the President. So Chief Justice of India is appointed by the President. Other judges of Supreme Court are appointed by the President on the consultation with the Chief Justice and other senior judges of the Supreme Court. Later it was converted to a colloquium, and finally it was converted to National Judicial Appointment Commission, which is now working. So it will suggest who will be the who will be the judge of the Supreme Court. So it is up to the President. President can appoint the judge of the Supreme Court. President can appoint the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, but President do not have power to remove them because they do not hold their office on the pleasure of the President. So as I already discussed, that they can be removed only by the process of impeachment, and the impeachment process is very long. If it starts in Lok Sabha, 100 members will sign on the bill, and then they'll present it to the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, and then it has to be passed with a special majority, 2/3 by the Lok Sabha, and then it goes to Rajya Sabha, and that it has to be passed with a special majority in the Rajya Sabha, and then it will be signed by the President. And in between, the judge has the power to present his own case, means he will justify. So it's too long. So in India, none of the judges of the Supreme Court or the High Court or the Chief Justice have been impeached only impeachment came for Justice Ramaswamy, but it cannot be completed because he resigned before the impeachment was completed. So none of the judges in India has been impeached up till now. So it has been made almost impossible to impeach the judge of the Supreme Court. So their position is fixed, their seat is fixed, so that no one can use its position to tackle and to change the decisions of the Supreme Court. Now we come to the qualification to be a judge of the Supreme Court. There is no minimum age identified or being written in the constitution that what is the minimum age to be appointed as the judge of the Supreme Court. Point is to be noted. And there is an upper age limit that at the age of 65 the judge of the Supreme Court will retire. Any judge of the High Court who has been working as a judge in a High Court or High Courts, means the experience of 5 years is necessary. It is not necessary that they have been working in one High Court. They may work in one High Court or they may work in more than one High Court. There are 24 High Courts in India. He may work in 24 High Courts for one month. That doesn't matter. So if he had 5 years experience, then he may be appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court if suggested by the Collegium, by the President obviously. And the head of that Collegium is Chief Justice of India, who suggests who is to be appointed as the judge of the Supreme Court. So if he is a judge of High Court, he can be appointed judge of the Supreme Court having 5 years of experience. If he has been an eminent lawyer and he has experience of 10 years of his lawyership in High Court, then he can be appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court if obviously President thinks that he is an eminent jurist. So he must have been advocated in the High Court. One other clause has been given in the Constitution that the senior-most eminent jurist, one clause has been given that the eminent jurist can be appointed as a judge in the Supreme Court. Now there is a point, who will be the eminent jurist? So the senior-most judge in India, senior-most lawyer in India will be considered as the eminent jurist. This is basically a tradition. So up till now, on the name of eminent jurist, no appointments have been made. So Supreme Court also gives advice to the President if there is a matter to be advised, and on the appointment of the judge of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice of India is to be consulted. But it has many disputes. From 1950 to 1973, it was a tradition that the senior-most judge will be appointed the Chief Justice of India. But in 1973, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who was the then Prime Minister, suggested the President to appoint Justice A.N. Roy to be the Chief Justice of India, superseding three senior-most judges. So this was the break in the tradition, and after that Justice Beg was appointed as the Chief Justice of India. So there was a problem because in Constitution it has been not written that the senior-most judge of the Supreme Court will be appointed as the Chief Justice of India. So in 1993, a case came behind the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court decided that that the senior-most judge having the most experience will be appointed as a Supreme Court judge. So now that dispute has been closed, and now, as I already appointed, that now National Judicial Appointment Commission has been appointed, and that suggests who will be the judge of the Supreme Court. Now regarding oath of the judge of the Supreme Court, the oath is taken by the CJI in front of the President, and the oath of the other judges is administered by the Chief Justice of India, CJI. As indicated by the Constitution, the salary of the Chief Justice of India is 1 lakh, and the other judges is 90,000. So this is the basic salary. If they want to resign, so their resignation is being given to the President of India. And now we come to a very important point: what is a constitutional bench? Because whenever there is a point that it is to be reviewed, whenever there is a point of constitutional importance, no one single judge can give a decision. So constitutional bench has to be appointed, and at least 5 judges should be the member of constitutional bench. And the biggest constitutional bench which has been constructed up to now was of 13 members, and that was created in the Keshwanand Bharati case. which decided that there is some basic structure of the Supreme Court and that cannot be destroyed by the Parliament. So that tussle, that who's superior, Parliament or the Supreme Court, ends over here when Supreme Court decided that basic structure of the Constitution cannot be altered. So this constitutional bench gave the decision. This will be final until and unless any constitutional bench which consists of more than 13 members give a decision that is against the decision. So this is the final decision that the basic constitution of the basic structure of the constitution cannot be reviewed by the Supreme Court. And the second most biggest this bench of the Supreme Court was constituted in the Golaknath case, where 11 judges of the Supreme Court sat and they gave the decision that these fundamental rights are amendable or not. So finally it was decided that fundamental rights are the basic structure of the Constitution and they cannot be destroyed by the Parliament. So Supreme Court has one more very important and this tradition has been made of public interest litigation. So this PIL or public interest litigation was started by Justice P.N. Bhagwati and Justice Krishna Iyer from 1973. So anybody who thinks that it's a matter of public interest may directly go to the Supreme Court and Supreme Court will hear to that matter. That is called PIL and public interest litigation. And there has been many eminent Supreme Court judges who were women. Justice Sudha Mishra, Gyan Sudha Mishra, Fatima Bibi, Justice Sujata Manohar, Justice Ruma Pal. So they has been the eminent judges of the Supreme Court and they have worked for their complete period. So the Supreme Court of India is the apex court deciding the basic structure of the Constitution. Now we just come to the High Courts. High Courts work in a similar manner and under the Supreme Courts. So the articles regarding High Courts are from 214 to 231 and that is given in the part 6 of the Constitution. We have 24 High Courts in India and the Union Territory of Delhi is the only Union Territory having its own High Court, that is Tis Hazari. So no judges, obviously that is the District Court of Delhi. So Delhi has the only Union Territory which has the High Court, and High Courts have given some very important constitutional decisions. Recently the decision was given on the matter of Teen Talaq and that was given by the Allahabad High Court obviously. So all judges of the High Courts are being appointed by the President and they have to be approved by the Collegium. And obviously now, as I have suggested, that they are being appointed by the NJAC, National Judicial Appointment Commission, and they do not hold office. The judges of the High Court do not hold office at the pleasure of the President. And the judges of the High Court, including the Chief Justice of the High Court, is being appointed by the President of India, not the Governor of India, not the Governor of any state. So President appoint the judges of the High Court and the Chief Justice of the High Courts. So this is the important point and that is to be noted, that there is no provision in the Constitution for appointing an eminent jurist as the judge of the High Court, as I discussed in case of Supreme Court. An eminent jurist can be appointed as the judge of the Supreme Court, but any eminent jurist cannot be appointed as a judge of the High Court. And as we discussed, that eminent jurist is generally considered a member who is the most senior advocate of India. So the High Court is a court whose original jurisdiction consists of obviously fundamental rights and the cases regarding the state and the district bodies. And original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is regarding the central government and any state, or between the two states, or the fundamental rights. So High Courts work within its jurisdiction. A state has its own High Courts, but one High Court may act in more than one state. As we have an example of Mumbai High Court, which is working in Maharashtra, Dadra Nagar Haveli, this Goa and Daman and Diu. So they have the common High Court. And we just go to Guwahati High Court. So it has its jurisdiction in Assam, Nagaland, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh. So one High Court may extend to more than one states. We have 24 High Courts in India, and we have much more states in India than the number of High Courts. So High Courts can be increased by the law of the Parliament. So Parliament has to pass a law with the majority, obviously, to increase the number of High Court, and that is a matter of the Parliament. So this is the way the High Courts work. If High Courts gives any decision that can be inverted by the Supreme Court overpowers the High Court of India, any High Court in any state, all the 24 High Courts work under the Supreme Court. The salaries of the judges of the High Court, obviously, cannot be reduced by any state government or central government until and unless there is a financial emergency. And in India, up till now, no financial emergency has been imposed. So salaries cannot be voted. They can be discussed. It can be discussed that salary is justified or unjustified. It can be discussed in the Parliament, but it is not a matter to vote on the Parliament. So the judges of the High Court gets their salary from the consolidated fund of the state, but they get their pensions from the central government. Now, what is the point in this, that the judges of the High Court can be removed? How can they be removed? It is almost impossible to remove a judge of a High Court. It is a matter of impeachment if they neither hold their position on the pleasure of president nor governor has anything to say about them. So if a judge of the High Court is to be removed, the impeachment process should start in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha. If it starts in Lok Sabha, it has to be signed by 100 members and the notice is to be given, and then it has to be passed by a special majority. If it starts in Rajya Sabha, it has to be signed by the 50 members, and then the notice is to be given to the Speaker of the Rajya Sabha, that is the Vice President, and then it has to be passed with a special majority. And this is almost impossible, difficult method. So none of the judges of the High Court has been impeached up till now in India. So it has been made almost impossible to impeach and remove the judge of the High Court. So the president can appoint the judge of the High Court, but president cannot remove the judge of the High Court unless and until he is getting impeached by the Parliament. So it has been almost impossible to remove the judges of the High Court. Now we come to some other important points as Lok Adalats and family courts. So this Lok Adalat has been established in India for discussing the family disputes, the disputes between the neighbors, and the cases of assault and the cases of injury. This Lok Adalat work in this matter that mutual agreement can be made between the parties, and the concept of Lok Adalat has been introduced in India to reduce the pressure on the High Courts and the Supreme Court. So the Family Court Act of 1984 was passed, and by this act it was cleared that the matter of family and marriage will be discussed in the family courts. So rather, this was the discussion of Supreme Court and the High Court. One important point that I would like to mention, that the Parliament cannot reduce the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. It can increase the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Suppose India acquires some territory in foreign. So in that case, the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court will increase in that area. But the Parliament cannot by any means or by any bill cannot reduce the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. It simply means that any person living anywhere which is in the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court can go to the Supreme Court. He has all rights for his fundamental rights for any wrong done to him, unless and until it comes under the judicial original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, or otherwise he has to go from the district court, and then the case will go to the High Court. And if case is enough important, means it's a case of death or serious constitutional crisis, then it will go to the Supreme Court. So either the channel is from subordinate court to the Supreme Court, or if it's the case of original jurisdiction, that anyone may directly move to the Supreme Court. In the case of PIL, in the case of violation of the fundamental rights, anybody may directly move to the High Court or the Supreme Court, and the writ will be issued in favor of that person. So as I've suggested that there are Lok Adalats and the family Adalats. Now we just come to the lower courts, subordinate courts. So it comes to a district level, and at district level it comes out to be civil courts. The civil court is headed by the district judge of the obviously district, and below the district judge there is a court of civil judge, and there are many civil judges handling cases of civil matters. Below the courts of civil judge there is a court of Munsif. So these are called Munsif courts, and below the court of Munsif there are court of small cause. So this is a chain of civil cases in the district level. Now I have just discussed the civil matters will go in these district, and this civil judge, and then Munsif, and then court of small case. If the case is criminal, then at the district level the most powerful judge is the sessions judge, that will hear the cases on the district level. So suppose any case is being tackled by the session judge and it is a case of death penalty, then it will go to the High Court, and if High Court decides that the person is to be hanged, then he may appeal in the Supreme Court. So the case will start from the sessions judge unless it is of constitutional importance or it is connected with the matter of fundamental rights. Now below the I am telling about the criminal cases. So below the session judge there is chief metropolitan magistrate, and below chief metropolitan magistrate there are several metropolitan magistrates, and below metropolitan magistrate there are second class judicial magistrates. So there are hundreds of judges working to give the justice to the people. Now if we just go to the revenue court, there is also a chain. The highest authority obviously is Board of Revenue, and below the revenue court is the Commissioner's Court. So in the state the highest authority is the Board of Revenue, and below the Board of Revenue is the Commissioner's Court, and below the Commissioner's Court is the Collector's Court, and below the Collector's Court it's a Tehsildar Court, and below the Tehsildar Court it's a Naib Tehsildar Court. So they all are courts regarding connecting to revenue. So this is a chain in which, as I have indicated in the starting of the video, that integrated judicial system works in India. So it would have been very clear to you that how this integrated judicial system work from the Naib Tehsildar Court to the Supreme Court of India. So this is a way in which the integrated judiciary of India is working. So this is a way in which the judiciary of India is working, and there was a point that which has higher power, means courts have higher power or parliament is superior. Parliament is superior or court is superior. So it has been discussed in many cases. I have quoted two, Keshwanand Bharati case and the Golaknath case. Finally it has been established that there is a balance between two. Parliament cannot damage the basic structure of the constitution, neither it can limit any power of the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has all right to summon anyone in the government, even the Prime Minister. So this is all for the integrated judiciary system in India. Thank you very much for watching.